Hi there. My name is Deborah Melkin. I'm Deb the DBA. That's my blog. That's my YouTube channel. This is the second part of the Where Did You Get That Query Plan From and Why It Matters. Hopefully you watched part 1 where we talked about estimated execution plans. If not, there's still time to go back and watch it. Meanwhile, we're going to move on and talk about actual execution plans, or as some people like to call them, execution plan with runtime stats. So let's jump right into it. All right, so we've had the setup. I've already run everything, but let me show you what I'm doing. The next thing is, after running the estimated execution plan that we saw previously, now we're going to go get the actual execution plan. People don't like the word actual because, well, it is actual in the sense that these are getting the runtime stats. So we know how many rows were actually returned. We know how long it actually took. We know how much memory it actually used. But people don't like it because these are the same execution plans we saw with the estimated queries, and we're going to show you that. So the way that I did this is you can see the query I've highlighted, and then I turned on include actual execution plan, and when I ran it, I was able to get the results. I saved those off, and so we can see those here. Now, this is very different from what we saw with the estimated. If we look here, this is what we had for the estimated for the same thing. We saw 3 different things go on. The stored procedure, what it was doing inside the stored procedure, and then the multi-statement table valued function. All we're getting is really just this part of the query, the actual query from the stored procedure, and it's that select statement because that's what we have to work with. So we have our select statement here, and this is what we're going to work with. One thing we'll show you in just a moment, that it really is the same. We just have the actual information. Some of the actual information is how much time is spent with each node in the execution plan. For example, if we look at this person, it says 93% of the cost of the plan is being spent on this person. It's a clustered index scan. If I were to look at that, I'd be a little worried. But then I look and said, it took 39 milliseconds to run. That doesn't seem like it's a lot for 93% of the cost, because if I look below this user-defined function, my table-valued function, it took 407 milliseconds, even though it thinks the cost, it's a relative cost, was 1%. Why? Because we don't see what's going on in that multi-statement table-valued function. This is why they have a bad reputation. No one likes them. Well, it's just one of the many reasons, but we can kind of see that this is part of the issue. We can see number of rows actually returned. So, estimated versus actual. Let's see if I can get this. So here we thought the estimated number of rows was 100, and that's what we would expect because we're using a cross-apply to a user-defined function. Later versions of SQL Server, it can sometimes use interleaved execution to get a better result. Doesn't happen with cross-apply. So we have 100, but we actually used 273. So that's how many rows returned. So now we can start seeing some of those problems. Now, this is where we get into different things that we see with the properties. Where now, only when you do the actual execution plan do you get some of those runtime information, like what parameter you use. And that's one of the biggest things we look for when troubleshooting. What parameter are we using? So I have this parameter list, same thing that we saw earlier, and now we can see what the runtime value was. So even if someone had just given me this plan, had given me what I saved here, I could say, it was compiled for EM, or maybe it was compiled for something else, but the values don't match. So if we're having problems, we don't quite see them, or we can now see them. Maybe it was parameter sniffing. That parameter just doesn't work with this plan. We can also see other things like query time stats. So I can see how much CPU time was used and how much elapsed time was. So I have some of that because if things went parallel, maybe I have a higher CPU time. And I can look up here and I can see my degree of parallelism. And so I can understand how some of that stuff works. Because these are all things that are considered runtime statistics that we're able to use and save and work with and figure out where our problem is. Now the fun thing is we can compare this to our execution plan, our estimated execution plan, and we can really see where some of those differences are. So let's do this. Let's right click. Let's do compare show plan. and I'm going to use my estimated execution plan for the original one, since that's what I ran against. And yeah, it acknowledges there's a lot more differences that we're seeing because, well, things don't quite line up the same way. But if you see here, I am able to connect the select to the store procedure. It's not an exact match, as you'll see, but I'm able to get something better. And if we do that, we can kind of see the store procedure. And if we look at our statements, we can start seeing like these statements match because I actually have the query plan and query hash here. If we look over, and we can see our query hash matches this query hash, the query plan. So we see it's the same plan. But now we can do things like we can find more information for that query plan to see where it matches. Compile plan size, compile plan size. So it's not a one-to-one, but we can see a lot of the stuff matches. We can see things that don't exist, like degrees of parallelism. We have the estimated rows are finding in a different spot. But we can still see things like memory grant information is matched to this memory grant. So it's not a one-to-one because of the way it's set up, but we're still able to do the comparisons and see that most of this stuff is the same. We see that there's no query time stats for our estimated. We can see that the parameter list, we just have that person type. We don't see parameter list here. Again, we just have the compiled, we don't have what was actually passed to the prop. So we can start seeing that where some of those things are different, but once we're able to line up the query plans, we can see that it's the same. What we saw from the estimated execution plan and the actual really do match. It's just the runtime statistics we don't have. To summarize what we just talked about, the actual execution plan is the estimated execution plan with the runtime stats because we actually ran the query. So it's putting everything together. We have that full comprehensive look and all the stats to accompany the execution plan. Plain and simple. Now the thing is, for both the estimated execution plan and the actual execution plan, we had everything given to us. We knew the procedure, we knew the parameters being passed in, but we don't always have that information. Sometimes we just know the performance was off and we need to do some digging. This is where we can get some of the saved data or the captured data. Where do we get those from? Well, that's going to be in our next video, DMVs and query stores. Hopefully you found this video useful. If so, like it, leave a comment, whether it's on my blog or it's on the video itself, subscribe to the channel. Let me know that you found this useful. Meanwhile, stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching.